Hello everyone, my name is Saki. At first I would like to say that please kindly subscribe my channel. So today I am going to read a story on the topic The Open Window, written by Hector Hergmantra, also known as by pen name Saki. So let's begin with our story. The Open Window. My aunt will be here soon, Mr. Nuttall said a very confident young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. Frampton Nuttall tried to say the correct something which should flatter the niece without disappearing the aunt who was yet to come. Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these visits to the total stranger would be do much to help the nerve cure which he was supported by the undergoing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to move his little village. You will bury yourself down there and not speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from mopping. I shall give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there. Some of them, as far as I can remember, were quite nice. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Stapleton, the lady to whom he was waiting with one of the letter of introduction, came into the nice division. Do you know many of the people round here? Asked the niece. Hardly a soul, said Frampton. My sister stayed here in the rectory some 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people there. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret. Then you know particularly nothing about my aunt? Asked the young lady. Only her name and address, said Frampton. He was wondering where Mrs. Stapleton was married or widowed. Something about the room seemed to suggest that a man usually occupied it. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. Her tragedy, said Frampton. Somehow, in his restful country, sport tragedies seemed out of place. You may wonder why we keep the window wide open on an October afternoon, said the niece, pointing at a large French window that opened to a lawn. It is quite warm for the time of the year, said Frampton, but has that window got anything to do with the tragedy? Out through that window 3 years ago, on this very day, her husband and two young brothers were off for their day shooting. They never came back. While crossing the moor to their favorite snipe shooting ground, they were all three drowned in treacherous piece of bog. Their bodies were never found. That was the dreadful part of it. Here the child's voice started shaking. Poor aunt always thinks that they will come back some day. They and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them and walk in through that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dark. Poor dear aunt, she has often told me how they went out, her husband with his white waterproof coat over his shoulders and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing, Betty, why do you bound? As he always did to tease her because she said it annoyed her. Do you know sometimes on still quiet evening like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She stopped talking with a little shiver. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt came into the ground and apologized for being late. I hope Vera has been amusing you, she said. She has been very interesting, said Frampton. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Saplayton. My husband and brothers will come directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. They have been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they will make a fine mess over my poor carpets. She rattled on cheerful about the shooting and how many ducks could be found in the water. To Frampton it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but not very successful effort to turn the talk to a less miserable topic. But he saw that Mrs. Saplayton was giving him only a part of her attention. Her eyes were constantly staring past him to the open window and the lawn beyond. The doctors agree in ordering me to complete rest and absence of any excitement, and I have recommended that I avoid any physical exercise, announced Frampton. On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement. No, said Miss Saplayton in a voice with one replaced a yawn at the last moment. Then she suddenly brightened. Here they are at last, she cried, just in time for tea. And don't they look as if they are muddy up to their eyes? Phantom shivered slightly and turned towards the niece. But the child was staring out through the open window with horror in her eyes. Feeling a shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. In the deepest dwelling, these figures were walking across the lawn towards the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them had hung a white coat over their shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close at her heels. Noiselessly they neared the house, and a young voice chanted out of the dusk, I said, Betty, why do you bound? Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat and ran. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid hitting him. Here we are, my dear, said the man with the white coat and coming in through the window. Fairly muddy, but most of it's dry. Who was that who ran out as we came up? A very strange man, a Miss Nuttall, said Miss Saplayton. He could only talk about his illness and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost. I expect it was the spaniel, said the niece calmly. He told me that he is afraid of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of Ganges with a pack of dogs. He had spent the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures snarling just above him. Fantastic stories at short notice were her specialty. So our story ends here. If you liked my today's video, then please like and comment my video, and also subscribe my channel to listen to more such stories and to follow all my videos regularly, and don't forget to click on the bell icon. Thank you.